From the dawn of civilization all the way up to more contemporary periods, invisibility has always been a very popular narrative trope when it comes to fiction. I'm talking about, you've got The Ring of Gyges by Plato, you've got Harry Potter and obviously his cloak of invisibility, Frodo and the One Ring, and that's not even mentioning my girl Susan Storm. 90% of the time though, when somebody is an invisibility user, they're usually a good person and they're not trying to use their powers for the devil's work. But what really happens when you've got an invisibility user who's actually on demon time? That neatly brings us into the topic of today's video. I'm guapojim, and today we're going to be breaking down Hollow Man and why this movie about an imperceptible psychopath is actually a true hidden gem. So, for those of you who don't know or are too young to remember, Hollow Man is basically your typical early 2000s sci-fi movie. While not a point-for-point adaptation, this movie was heavily inspired by the H.G. Wells classic, The Invisible Man. What sets this movie apart though is its ability to really delve into the dark, seductive nature of evil while using invisibility as the vehicle to take us there, if you will. The results of which are not usually seen. Some people might even go so far as to say they were unseen. Bad joke, I know, but fuck it, we're here already, you know? Basically, at the center of the story is Dr. Sebastian Cain, who is this brilliant, egotistical scientist who's leading a covert government experiment aimed at cracking the code to invisibility. Being the narcissist scientist that he is, he obviously decides to take things into his own hands, and he volunteers himself to be the first test subject. Being that this is a sci-fi horror movie, the experiment succeeds beyond everybody's wildest imagination, and Dr. Cain quite literally does go invisible. With that said though, that is where things go completely left. As Cain now begins to adjust to his new condition, the thrill of invisibility and everything that comes along with it, it begins to erode any bit of responsibility that he had, and my guy, he lets it go to his head. You know, I'm telling you, like, his darker impulses, they really do come to the surface, and this guy really starts doing some really crazy shit. I cannot stress that enough. If you watch the movie, you'll kind of see that the same intelligence that made him a scientific prodigy in the first place, it now fuels this descent as he becomes just a looser man, and he gets lost in the sauce. If you watch the film, you'll see what I'm talking about. Meanwhile, you've got the rest of his research team who, again, a lot of them, they began as his friends and shit, and they begin to realize that this man who they all admired, he's going off the deep end, and they cannot trust him anymore. So because this is a sci-fi movie, what does ensue and happen after this is the team, they have to figure out a way to try to take him down, because they do realize that my guy, he's on that invisible demon time. Hollow Man isn't just about invisibility. It's really about the theme of what happens when evil people have the resources and the desires to follow through on their more baser instincts. Equal parts a sci-fi horror as well as just a cautionary tale of fuckery. This film, it really does explore the unsettling powers of ego as well as the fragility of conscience, not to mention just the real consequences of what happens when somebody loses sight of what makes them human as they devolve into a monster. Hey, what's guan and slime? I'm gonna go out on a limb and I'm gonna assume that you're a fan of more unorthodox sci-fi movies. If that's the case, Chronicle would be your shit. I actually made a breakdown about that movie and I've left the link in the description below. Do yourself and your boy a big favor and check it out. You will not be disappointed. I also do want to add, this is a small channel. So if you do like this video and you want to support guapojim Ministries, I'm going to need you to like this video, subscribe, comment, share, all that YouTube algorithm shit. It really does support the channel and it really means a lot. All right. With that being said, let's get back to Hollow Man. Production standpoint, This movie, as I mentioned before, it was kind of written to be an homage to The Invisible Man, but with a much more sinister outlook. It's funny because the director of this movie, when he made it, he said that he wanted to make a movie with a lot less sex and violence than his previous films. But if you watch this movie, you see that that's pretty much the opposite of what happened. Like, Kane, I'm telling you, this guy, he does some very ungentlemanly like things to a woman. I'm not gonna say particularly what he does, but it just rhymes with the word grape, and we'll leave it at that. But aside from all of the sex crimes and everything like that, the special effects that made Kane invisible, they were actually really renowned at the time. So much so that this movie was actually nominated for an Oscar for its special effects. Though the critics themselves weren't massive fans of it when it came out, this movie, it made beaucoup money, raking in about $195 million. And that's in the year 2000. So I'm telling you, it made some cake still. If you ever do want to watch this movie for yourself and see what I'm talking about, you can find it today streaming on Apple TV as well as on Prime Video. All in all, I really like this movie still. Like, again, I feel like invisibility is one of those powers everybody wishes they could have, myself included. And it was cool to kind of watch a movie where you could see that play out in real time. Again, I obviously would not be on demon time like Kane, but I would probably do some crazy shit too if I could become invisible. I remember seeing the cover for this movie at Blockbuster, and so many times I would beg my parents to rent it. Please, mom and dad, please, please, please. They would obviously never rent it, of course. Comment down below if you guys are even old enough to remember going into a Blockbuster yourself. I remember finally watching this movie as a teenager, and I really enjoyed it back then. And again, I wanted to rewatch it so I could talk about this. And it still holds up really well. Like, is it the best movie in the world? Of course not. But it's still a really fun movie to watch. I feel like a lot of movies nowadays are just background movies. You put it on in the background while you're doing something else. But this movie, it is one of those films that you're gonna wanna pay attention to, even if you decide to never watch it again. Again, the fight scenes in it were really sick, and even just Kane, like, he's a terrible human being. There's no disputing that. But you kind of rock with him. I'm not gonna lie. Maybe it's Kevin Bacon, but I don't know, you kind of rock with him. I get it, I know, like, I know. Even just the dialogue. You guys know me, I'm a big dialogue guy. I love well-written dialogue, and this movie, it really sells it. You feel all of the things that these characters are going through, you know? Again, if you've got a couple hours to kill, I would highly suggest watching Hollow Man. I think you'll really enjoy it. You guys know me, I'm always trying to put you onto some next shit, and I just wanted to let you guys know why Hollow Man is not just some movie about an invisible sexual predator, but it's actually a true hidden gem. Thank you if you've made it this far. If you're a fan of this type of content, I'll need you to like, subscribe, and comment down below on which other shows or movies were true hidden gems. Until the next time we meet, stay safe, later days.